I welcome you to the Holistic Health Show. I am Dr. Carl O. Helvie, your host. My last guest, Reverend Marilyn Redmond, loves to share her experience, strengths, and hopes of overcoming her harsh conditions and illnesses. Through her speaking, writing, seminars, consulting, and counseling, she shares overcoming a childhood of living in domestic violence with abuse and incest, a 30-year domestic violence marriage of rape, in addition to healing addictions, bipolar disorder, PTSD, fibromyalgia, arthritis, and more. Her techniques as therapeutic hypnosis along with flower essence, healing the roots or origins of the problems, releasing the symptoms and circumstances that are based in emotional issues. As a retired teacher in public schools and colleges, Marilyn has 3 years of graduate work toward a doctorate degree. She became an ordained minister to do spiritual counseling, regression healing, and past life therapy. Marilyn was inducted into Who's Who for professionals and executives for her innovative and pioneering work in restoring traumatic lives, healing emotional causes of illness, and releasing negative energies. She is an award-winning international writer and international author, consultant, and columnist, appearing at universities and schools, seminars, retreats, treatment centers, wellness centers, and conventions. She was host of a radio show, Marilyn Solutions, and was interviewed on radio and television. Her forthcoming book is Paradigm Busters, Revealing the Real You. Her videos, books, articles, and other materials on her website, angelicasgifts.com. I welcome you to the Holistic Health Show, Reverend Redmond, and I look forward to hearing about energy in your work. Now, first, who has most influenced your work in the practice of holistic health?
Well, there have been several influences. The major influence was Edgar Cayce, who was the father of holistic medicine, and he was a psychic, the great psychic of the 20th century, with over 11,000 readings that are recorded at Virginia Beach. So one of his quotes is, "There are in truth no incurable conditions." Mm-hmm. And another of his quotes is that Christ consciousness is the only source of healing for a physical or mental body. And what I've come to understand is the Christ consciousness is another way of saying unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I'm discovering is love is the answer that heals our illnesses, and when we love ourselves, we get well. Mm-hmm. And that's been a tremendous understanding for me to work and grow into. Also, I'm in 12-step programs, and I came across this message that said, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Mm-hmm. And I've used that in all my medical issues. Mm-hmm. I've resolved and healed my bipolar disorder, my domestic violence, my arthritis, my 9 addictions, fibromyalgia, many things that I've healed through spiritual answers and alternative medicine. And then most people are familiar with the Bible quote that says, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. And, of course, that Christ consciousness, again, is unconditional love.
Right.
And I really, when I first heard this one years before I ever got into holistic health, I heard Dr. Albert Schweitzer was a very famous missionary years ago when I was younger. And his comment was, it's a trade secret, but I'll tell you anyway. Mm-hmm. All healing is self-healing. Mm-hmm. So as I combine all those pieces of information together, they have influenced learning to look for a different source for what's the cause of our illnesses. Mm-hmm. And when I came across a doctor of 1974, Dr. John Tilden, an MD, said that in truth is known that healing, or the power to throw off disease and get well, is wholly within the subconscious and is personal. We will know that curing, palliating by the administration of remedies, drugs, serums, vaccines, surgery, feeding to keep up the strength, etc., are superfluous, meddlesome, and on the order of throwing a monkey wrench into the machinery. So I ended up going into not only just helping people mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and we have to cover the whole person. So a lot of my focus has become dealing with the root cause in the subconscious, like Dr. Tilden talks about.
Right. Now, Cayce also said spirit is the essence, mind the builder, and the physical the result. So he was saying, as you said earlier, everything starts back with the spiritual self. And of interest, I moved to this area of the country because of my interest in Edgar Cayce, and also served as the volunteer nurse for several years at their camp in the western part of the state when I first moved to Virginia. So I have a long history with the Cayce family. Well, Charles Thomas, the grandson, wrote the foreword to my last, not my last book, but the book before my last one, on healthy holistic aging. And we had been friends for 35 years at that time. So it's been
well,
a
I know
long
Charles Thomas,
reunion.
too, and he's been reading my book I'm getting ready to publish. And I've been in the ARE for over 20 years. I'm a lifetime member. And I'm very involved with Search for God study groups.
Right. So then what is the major difference from most health procedures and holistic health?
Well, there's several major differences. Holistic health, as I mentioned a minute ago, addresses the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, which means that we address the whole person, not just the physical symptom, which medicine tends to focus on. And, of course, as you just stated, it involves healing our souls. That's often ignored or generally ignored in the medical profession. And when you realize that the subconscious is like the iceberg in our lives, it's not the visual consciousness of our belief system, it's what's in our subconscious that is really the tail wagging the dog as far as our medical conditions. So when we get down to the causes and conditions below the conscious level, that's something that medicine just totally ignores. And then using alternative medicines is Chinese herbs, a chiropractor, massage practitioners, acupuncture, hands-on healing, Reiki. Any energy work is obviously, I have found through my own experience, extremely helpful in my situations and brought solutions, and that have actually caused me to be able to say that I've been healed. I've been actually called sane instead of bipolar anymore. So what I know today is that addressing further than just the physical really brings results instead of just temporary or partial results, or actually sometimes things get actually worse. And one of the things that Albert Einstein said, you can never solve a problem on the level which it was created. And so I'm discovering more and more that our ego has created a way of trying to protect us, which actually stops the vital energy from flowing through us. So to overcome the ego, we have to move into a higher power, which people can call, a God consciousness, Christ consciousness, or unconditional love, whatever the source, some people pick whatever you want to call that higher energy. So when we can tap into that, we really can find health in our lives. And I also know today from reading Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, that our emotional roots cause a great deal of our illnesses. And she has a wonderful book that addresses those emotional fears and all the negative energies that our ego gives us messages for. And she offers affirmations to affirm the positive in our thinking so we can create a new world. Albert Einstein said the world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. And this is another thing that modern medicine doesn't look at. They do it from a medication and surgery type of procedures rather than, oh, well, what in your life happened to create this thinking and your body's paying attention to it and doing what you're saying in your head. And I have an ebook on Amazon.com, The Real Meaning of 2012, which talks about changing your ego and releasing that so it's not influencing our thinking anymore. So we can look at our health from a different point of view, and in my case, I have found great success.
Mm-hmm. Then how do you access higher energy to heal a problem?
Well, there's several ways you can access that higher energy. Meditation is a very most common used one that most people turn to when they start being more spiritual or looking for alternative answers. It puts us in an altered state that raises our consciousness into reality. We're actually living in this ego state of mind or duality. And so when you move into a oneness state or altered state of grace, then our changing, as you said, Edgar Cayce said, spirit is the source, mind is the builder, physical is the result. So as you change your mind, you can change your illnesses to become healthy. And what I know today is through meditation, I have had a lot of guidance come to me from my ascended masters, angels, and other guides in my life to put me through different exercises in that time of meditation that has actually healed various parts of my conditions at that time. And so meditation is probably the ultimate source of moving us out of our old thinking and releasing that so we're free from it. And what I do as a therapeutic hypnosis practitioner, I've originated a practice where I coach people in this altered state to find the root cause of their condition. I had one client show up who was in terrible rage over her life and came for help because it was actually making her life unmanageable. And in working with her and resolving the issues with her family situation, she one day mentioned that she had a thyroid problem. And I said, do you mind if we do a body regression and find out the cause and the healing solution? And, Edgar Cayce did this for his larynx when he had used hypnosis to find out why he had lost his voice. And he couldn't speak, so he used hypnosis. So I used that as my model, and I asked her body consciousness for how this occurred, and her body responded that it was trying to protect her from the rage that she was so engulfed in and so enraged. It just overwhelmed her life that with this distraction of having a thyroid condition was helping to alleviate that other focus, and it made her sick as a way to help her deal with her problems. And so as we resolved the rage, she went through forgiveness and came out the other side, and she showed up at one of her appointments one day, and she says, by the way, I don't need my thyroid medicine anymore.
Great. Yeah.
So several months later, she was not needing medications. And I have done this with many clients over the years at this point, going in and the information this particular person received from her body consciousness telling her how to heal and resolve the issue was so loving. I literally had tears in my eyes as her body was telling her how to love herself and how to put more love into her life so she wouldn't have these conditions. And it was absolutely an amazing experience to see our body loves us. We've just not received those messages because the ego's in the way.
Right.
And to really know the truth does set us free.
Right.
I also have used flower essences, which are vitamins for the soul. That's what I call them. And they're pure energy that is not toxic like medications or drugs. They aren't poisonous. And they are from the plants of the different flowers. Dr. Bach in England found 33 plants that have the essences that replace insecurities and fears, guilt, angers, typical emotions that actually cause our illness if we hang on to that thinking and that emotion. So as people use flower essences. They're drops that you take internally and swallow, and they go into your system, and they literally, from putting in loving energy into your body, push out the negative, unloving, fearful energy, so they start to make an energy change in your emotional system.
Right.
And in doing that, the client I have now using flower essences, she says, oh, I can really tell the difference when I'm not using them. It really does help support this change we're talking about. So flower essences can be very practical. They're much less expensive than regular drugs.
At this point, I'm going to ask you about your book, services, and products, and how the listeners can reach you.
Okay, well, my first book was Roses Have Thorns, Encouragement on Evolving from Pain to Joy, and that's available on Amazon.com or my website, which is angelicasgifts.com. Angelica's Gifts is one word, .com. People can call me at 253-845-4907, 253-845-4907. I am soon releasing and publishing my newest book, Paradigm Busters, Reveal the Real You, and it offers all the detailed information I've been explaining already today. And so people can find their health and the beautiful part of who they are, and that's who their true essence is. And I have many articles and books, ebooks on Amazon.com and Kindle. And I also have over 45 articles on groundreport.com on the Internet. So I try to be out there and available. I give talks, lectures, counseling, consulting, and do a lot of writing to help people. And I'm always eager to receive emails if someone has questions. And you can reach me at Marilyn, Marilyn, at angelicasgifts.com. I'm on the Internet. So, yes, I try to be out there and help people as much as I can.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your taking the time to talk with us today.
Well, thank you for calling, and I just really appreciate your having me on the air. And if there's another time that you want to discuss this further or other topics from my own experience, I'd be glad to share it.
Great. Thank you, Reverend Redmond. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and have a wonderful day.
You too. I thank you for joining me today on the Holistic Health Show. I hope some of the information was useful to you. I invite you to my two websites, www.Holistic Health Show, where you will find all past shows archived under the blog, and I also invite you to my website, beatlungcancer.net, where you will find all the information on my latest book on You Can Beat Lung Cancer Using Alternative Integrative Interventions. This book discusses my natural interventions used when I was diagnosed with lung cancer 39 years ago and given 6 months to live by conventional medicine. Additional chapters give other natural alternative interventions by some of the leading alternative physicians and health practitioners in the country. I am Dr. Carl O. Helvie, your host, wishing you a great week.